Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We are glad you are here, and just by showing up, you're already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, I am pleased to present two of my Nashville homies, both whom I have coveted as guests on this platform for quite some time. Good things come to those who wait, and I promise you will leave smarter and more enlightened than you arrived. First, I want to take care of some business. To the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I'm a music industry headhunter. I run the music practice at Turnkey ZRG, and I place music executives in roles throughout the industry. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. And in this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, and say hello to your friends and make some new ones. And ask questions of our speakers. We will try to address as many of those as possible during the interview. Also, and this is very important, please make sure your chat is set to address everyone, not just the host and speakers. I want to thank our program sponsors, for without their support, we could not do this for free. Special thanks to MedJet, Turnkey ZRG, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, Tennessee Brew Works, and Better Than Booze. So let's get down to business. In today's host seat, we welcome Kerri Fox-Metoyer. She is the head of entertainment services for Gab. Gab is a safe tech for kids company with a national U.S. footprint offering wireless service, mobile devices, wearables, and software services. In 2022, Gab launched a kids-safe music streaming service called Gab Music. The service is a first of its kind, offering music from all genres and decades with no explicit lyrics or inappropriate subject matter for Gab's 6 to 12-year-old users. Kerri is also founder of Lab Nashville, an entertainment strategy company that has held executive positions at EMI Music, the Walt Disney Company, Sony Music, and Sony Electronics. She sits on the board of TEDx Nashville and holds advisory roles in multiple entertainment technology companies. Welcome, Kerri. It is such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thanks, Tom.
And joining Kerri as today's featured guest is Damon Whiteside. Damon is CEO of the Academy of Country Music, a storied organization that will celebrate the 60th ACM Awards on May 8th, marking a landmark anniversary for the longest-running country music awards show. He has led the Academy since 2019, directing the organization through COVID with a special show called ACM Presents Our Country, which featured artists performing from their homes around the country during lockdown, and still holding the 2020 ACM Awards after a delay due to COVID. Damon was instrumental in bringing the ACM Awards to Prime Video in 2022, making the 57th ACM Awards the first major awards show to stream exclusively, with the show streaming live in 230 countries and territories worldwide. He also brought the industry favorite ACM Honors back to TV in 2022. In 2023, Damon moved the ACM Awards to Texas for the first time since the 50th ACM Awards, with the show taking place at the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, Texas, in partnership with the Dallas Cowboys, which is where this show, hosted by Reba McEntire, will take place. He has previously worked at the Country Music Association, Nomad Entertainment Group, and the Walt Disney Company. Folks, it is my pleasure to welcome these two rock stars to our platform today. Take it away, guys.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. I don't know if we have anything else to talk about after that intro.
And I was thinking I need to edit my bio a little bit. It's a little long.
Well, thanks, Damon, for inviting me to do this. I don't know if this was if I'm being punished, or if I'm actually, this is an honor. So, but thank you either way.
A little of
for asking me.
Thank you. And it's kind of wild seeing all the comments in the chat. We're trying to keep our eyes on that too. It's amazing to see so many past colleagues and friends. So thank you.
Yeah, in looking at some of the comments, it's interesting because for you, and Jeff Lowy, who's one of our ex-Disney guys, it's like it spans our like careers. So this is really this is gonna be super fun.
Yeah.
And we have a lot to cover. So do you mind if I just jump in?
Go for it.
Okay, great. So I think you and I, it's so funny because we met each other before we really knew each other, right? You and I both grew up in Orange County, California, and we both worked at record stores in our early days. And then one of my first jobs at a record label was going into record stores and putting up posters. And I used to go into your record store and put up posters.
Yep. But I didn't know you.
But we didn't know each other, which was so crazy until I started working at Disney and we put it together. So I think that was like our instant bond. But for you, how, working in a record store at a young age, like what did that do for you early on?
Yeah, I mean, the record store was Music Plus for anybody that would remember that. It was a Southern California record store chain, and I started there. I think I was 15 and a half to be specific. But I just remember starting over the holidays as like a holiday employee and they kept me. But that was like just a dream because I loved going into record stores and shopping. And that was my favorite thing to do is just constantly go to the record store. So I just knew whatever my first job's going to be, it's going to be at the record store. So and it's really quite amazing how much you learn from being in retail, which now doesn't for music retail, which doesn't exist anymore really, other than just some obviously independent record stores and things. But yeah, I mean, you learn so much. I mean, it's like just reading Billboard magazine on your lunch breaks and opening boxes from all the distribution companies and having to put up posters and promo materials like you used to go into stores and do that. But it's like you really learn how the whole system works. And that's what really gave me the bug and the passion for the music business.
When you had that job, did you say like, this is what I wanted to do? Or were you just investigating at that point?
I mean, I think I knew I wanted to work. I wanted to be around music. So I knew I wanted to do something with music. I just didn't really know what a career path was. So my first experience with that was, being in a record store. And also we sold tickets to back then. It's hard to even imagine that now. The people waited in line overnight to buy tickets, physical tickets. But it's just like you learn too about like how the ticket and touring industry works by just selling tickets. And so I knew I wanted to be in music my whole life. I just didn't know exactly what the path was. So it was a great way to just jump in and kind of learn, just different aspects of it. And I don't know, I guess at the time I figured maybe I'll just work at a record store my whole life. I didn't know.
Well, good thing that didn't happen, right?
Yeah. What age were you, Kerri, when you worked in a record store? I don't remember your exact age.
So I was, I think I was like 17, 18, 19.
Okay.
And I worked at Tower Records in Anaheim.
Yeah.
And I started part-time, like counting records. I had to get there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Like that was how you got a job at Tower, was you had to first do inventory. So you had to get there at 6 o'clock in the morning and you had to count cassettes and like 45 inserts and stuff like that to like, I guess, show that you were passionate about it. And then if they had a job, they'd offer you a job. And so I got a real job, which, I think I made like $6 an hour or something, probably like you. And then I became the promotions manager. So I did like all the in-stores and things like that. But the record store for me, it's same as you. The record store for me was I learned a lot about how ticketing, we had Ticketmaster or no, Ticketron.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Ticketron.
Yeah.
Yeah. How the Billboard charts worked because I worked in singles for a while.
Yeah.
I if in most cases any of the big songs or albums during that time, I could tell you what the album cover looks like, and I learned like a deep knowledge of catalog working in a record store. So
It's funny you say that because we'll come to it later, but I wasn't like initially as a young teen, I was not into country music. I didn't know anything about country music, but working in the record store because but different employees could play different, we'd put a CD on, like you'd fight over who got to put the next CD on
mhm,
in the store. But we also had those video loops that played all the promo videos. So because of that, I learned so much about different genres, like kind of what you were saying. So
yeah.
just sidebar, but it made me think of that I still bring that up with artists today. Like, I remember learning about you when I worked at this record store.
I have one Grateful Dead record that I know from beginning to end because of working at Tower Records. And it's the only Grateful Dead record I know. And I know that record top to bottom. So
Yep, yep,
it's totally
yep.
true. Um, so how how did you go from working at Music Plus to getting a job at Disney?
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely it was a complicated road, but so I actually so my first record store job, it was high school, and so I was actually out in Riverside, California, and then when I went to college in Orange County, then I transferred to that Music Plus. So then I was working, at the music store while I was going to college. So I kind of kept that up in terms of like, still being sort of in the music business, if you will, and so kind of learning. And anyway, it kind of a windy path, but basically because I was so focused on music, I just I did a lot of just research into like, even things like just looking at album liner notes and things to figure out who is who and who worked at the record companies and who is the publicists, and just kind of learning more about like different facets of the business, because we really didn't have like a music industry program at Cal State Fullerton where I went. And so ultimately, it just kind of led me into wanting to look for internships and just opportunities to just start getting my foot in the door. So I just started doing that, interning at some different companies. And then from there, just ultimately, as I got kind of to the end of my college time, I really kind of zeroed in on what I wanted to do and just kind of what my major was. And ultimately, after doing a couple of internships, including at Disney, it kind of opened the door for a career opportunity there. So that's definitely simplifying it. It was a lot more complicated than that. It was a lot of like, doing interviews after college and everything. It didn't just like automatically doors open, but I just knew that's what I wanted to do was be in music. So it kind of, and I was a Disney fan too, kind of at that point, because, as you know, Kerri, being in Orange County, you go to Disneyland every week. It's like part of the
Mhm.
culture. And half of
Yeah.
my college worked at Disneyland. So I just kind of became a fan that way. And so ultimately, like I wanted to be at Disney.
I mean, it's hard to get a job at Disney too. Or at least when we were there, I know that
Yeah.
it was very hard. People would always ask me, "How did you get your job there?" I actually lived next door to a guy that moved to Burbank, didn't have a job, but moved to Burbank so that he could potentially get a job at Disney. I thought,
Wow.
wow, that's like crazy that you are going to that extent to try to get a job. I mean, it just
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I remember one thing I did too, just again while I was still in college, but I signed up with a temp agency where it was, they would place you, and just like if somebody called in sick for the day, they would, place you at the desk. So I went to the agency and I said, I only want Disney jobs. So either at the studios or at the parks. And so they would just call me whenever there was like somebody who was sick or they just needed a temp. So again, it was like that was my focus. So like I would work on these random desks of different Disney people at the parks studio, but it was just a way to kind of meet people and learn. And it's funny, I actually just see that makes me think Susan Griesi, who's on in the chat, she's somebody I interned for.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Susan. So you were focused like early on, like this is
Yeah.
you zoned in on it and really like went for it. That's awesome. I know that when uh we have a lot to talk about at Disney. I know that um there there was a lot of I mean, there's a lot to unpack at our time with Disney. I think you
Yeah.
even more. But I think that so when when we worked together as peers, you were heading up marketing and I was heading up sales, and you were spending the money and I was making the money.
Well, I don't know about that, but you couldn't have made the money if I didn't give you the materials to sell.
Jeff Lowy, we want to hear your comments on this. Um, but I think that at the time we were it was just starting. The Disney Channel was just starting to add music, kind of back into programming, and it was starting to become um, more of a priority. And which is when I started in 2005. When did you start?
I was I started like temp a temp job there in 96 and then full time in 97.
Okay. So you kind of went through all of those earlier days, the Lizzie McGuire's, and but when I had started, I know that we had just started the music programs at Disney Channel started to really start
Yeah.
to become a priority, and the music group and the Disney Channel were really working very closely together, and that that really I'd love to hear kind of your perspective on the synergy and how you saw that kind of grow into such a enormous business that it became.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say, I mean, it definitely was an evolution for sure. And it's kind of hard to imagine because of the huge success of it that there was a time that music did not really work within the company. But my very first start there, when I did start in 96, it actually was in the film marketing side of the business. And I grew to really love that. So I actually thought I was going to go into the film side. I was a big fan of the animated musicals that were, obviously massive hits. But I, loved the music part of it too. That was always like a real passion were like the soundtracks and everything. And anyway, so that was kind of my real first entry into the company was the film side. So I learned kind of about how that all worked. But then that led into an opportunity, and it is actually, I'll just mention Susan again. When I was working for Susan and another lady, Nancy Cleater, who ran in theater marketing for the Disney Studios, an opportunity opened up at the Disney Music Group. And so for a marketing person, and so I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is my path. I'm like actually at Disney and now finding like a music specific role. So, all that to say, when I started officially in 97 at the music group, it was a much different scene at that point. It was like Walt Disney Records, which was obviously the division you and I both worked for. It was very focused on the animated soundtracks and that side of the business. And so ultimately, we were probably at the time, I want to say we were probably like a 30 to $40 million business a year. And I just remember our general manager, I think she was that ran, Walt Disney, or maybe president of Walt Disney Records at the time, used to say, we're going to get to 100 million at but it seemed like such a pipe dream. Anyway, then to get to your question, over time, it was like things started to kind of happen. We had, Lizzie McGuire, which was that really big hit Disney Channel show. Hilary Duff was, a big, teen craze around her and the show. And at that time, Radio Disney had just launched,
Mhm.
and Disney Channel was not playing music at all because at that time they had apparently kind of moved away from music because earlier they, had broken acts like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and a lot of those. They were doing a lot of that pop stuff and found that it was eroding the brand. And at that time anyway. And so anyway, they were not touching music. But then when suddenly one of their shows had a star who wanted to do music, it was like, well, we should figure this out. Like this
Mhm.
is now a homegrown Disney franchise versus promoting an external artist. So basically what happened was on our side, we said, well, why don't we'll pay to shoot a music video with Hilary Duff for the soundtrack, and Disney Channel, if you'll play it, let's see what happens. And so that's what happened. They put this music video into rotation, and then it literally just ignited instantly. Immediately it was a platinum album. And so suddenly it was like, whoa, there's something here. There's a model. And that's kind of the beginnings of it. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And to the times when, of course, you came in and kept getting bigger. So yeah, we ultimately ended up, I think you would know better than me. I think we ultimately surpassed 200 million a year.
Yeah, it was definitely it was definitely a roller coaster. I mean, um we had some like really record-breaking years
Yeah.
during that time. With High School Musical, of course, was like the big, huge breakout. The musical that nobody knew anything about. And I think that we shipped 30,000 units of that originally. And then we had Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus, Cheetah Girls. I don't know if you can see my
I
Cheetah
see your
Girls
Cheetah
plaque.
Girl plaque. I have
Yeah,
that too.
it's been sitting in my hallway. I'm gonna put it up in my office. Um, and I have to tell this story, Damon, and I don't think the person, Scott is on here. Scott, hey, Scott. He's going to know about this, or at least he's going to know about the people that I'm talking about. Um, and I'll never forget this. This is the story I'll tell Damon. I won't tell anymore. Um, so when we would have these like offsites, and we'd have these marketing offsites, and we'd
No,
present
I
all
know
the
where this is going.
we'd have all these you would present all of the coming up new releases, and your team would put together all these great presentations, and you always asked me to bring our universal counterparts that were helping us promote, to retailers. And so I brought our friend Vince, who was our label liaison. I guess he was our like third party label liaison or something like that, associated label person. And Vince is a cool guy. And I brought him in, and we were down in California, or
Oh,
the resort,
Grand Californian.
Grand Californian.
Yeah.
And I remember the tables, and we sat in the back row, and all of a sudden Damon and his whole team come running in with basketball jerseys on, and dribbling basketballs. And I was like, what's going on? And then they showed like the trailer for High School Musical. And by the end of it, I was just like, oh, Vince is never going to come to another meeting again. This is horrible. It's good. And then of course, like High School Musical became the biggest
Yeah.
thing ever.
And see, then we
Uh,
sold 6 million units.
we, if you remember, that first weekend, because it premiered that weekend like multiple times. Every retailer was out of it by that weekend, and it was #1 on iTunes. And we got that call, the WTF, what is this?
Yeah.
And which was a great call to get. But
Yep.
and then we just like played catch up for the next 3 months, and trying to fill the demand for High School Musical. And then it grew into franchises, and to a huge franchise, and multiple into multiple versions of that movie. And So, but I'll never forget you and your team's
Yeah.
basketball jerseys.
That's what you got to do to get the sales team excited, you know?
Yeah.
You have to lead the horse to water. No, and just to set the record straight and history straight, I always said High School Musical was going to be gigantic. The sales team only shipped 30,000 units. So that was not my fault.
I will definitely take that one.
That's the beauty of digital, right? Now digital, you don't have to like even guess. You just put it out and as many people that want it can have it.
Yeah. Well, that was the days of iTunes, though. That was before
Yeah. Yeah.
streaming, So, um,
I'll
so
never, can I just say one funny thing you just made me think of when you said iTunes?
yes,
Because when High School Musical 2 came out, no, it was 3. High School Musical
yeah,
3, when it was a theatrical release, and we had obviously the first two were massive successes. So we had this idea to work with Universal, our distributor, as you said, we're going to go to Apple, we're going to go up to um,
Cupertino.
Cupertino. We're going to go up and we're going to meet with all the heads of Apple Music and we're going to pitch this not even Apple Music, like Apple. We're going to pitch this to do this massive High School Musical 3 partnership. And they're going to do billboards all over the country. And it's going to be this big partnership. And I remember we put a whole deck together. We flew up there, met with all the heads and basically present this. And they're just like, at the end, like, okay, thank you. Like, had absolutely no idea what to say. And basically, politely, we're like, yeah, this doesn't really fit the Apple brand.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Bye bye.
exactly. Yep.
Um,
But that's how you
so
learn, right? That's how you learn.
it was a good shot. Took a swing. Um, so what? I know I have some of my favorite Disney memories, but what are your favorite memories working at Disney?
I mean, of course, working with you, I mean, that goes without saying. It was, and I know we have actually quite a few Disney folks here,
We
so
do.
a lot of them know this, and especially at that time in the company, I think it was such an entrepreneurial time. And it was, we were lucky enough to get to really create the whole music ecosystem that involved Disney Channel, Radio Disney, and then our consumer products division that was selling all the merch. But music was always,
Touring.
I try to explain that to people, like, yes, we were working in the music division, but it was really working as part of the overall franchise. So music was the centerpiece of most of the franchises at Disney, from film to television to obviously Broadway. So music always was kind of the driver and was in the driver's seat of a lot of it. So it wasn't just like, oh, go put this soundtrack out or something. It was like, no, we were at the front end of it, planning how music would promote, a film opening or a whole consumer products line or a theme park attraction or whatever. So I think from that perspective, like I really learned a lot and enjoyed that. And I remember one of my favorite things was just getting to sit on the Disney franchise executive council, where it was like somebody from each division sat around, got met regularly, and we would discuss at the corporate level, like what initiatives are important. And so just that was such a learning that I've carried through my whole career, just that sort of collaboration and how you create the win-wins. And so I think that's what I love generally most about Disney. But I mean, my gosh, I'm such a Disney fan. I mean, I really did love working on all of the animated film stuff. Loved all the teen craze too. I mean, that was like lightning in a bottle during those years. But I
What
have to
about like moments? Like, was there a moment, like, I mean, going into to Disney's apartment, like
Yeah,
those kind of
yeah,
moments that you only get if you work at Disney?
yeah. I mean, God, there's so many of them. I think it's just, I mean, for me, like a specific one that comes to mind is I was a massive Phil Collins fan. Like growing up, I just worshiped Phil Collins. And when he did the Tarzan film, I couldn't believe that like that was coming together for me, that I got to work on this project and Phil was like somebody I just really was a massive fan of. And so, and then ultimately, then he also then did another film, Brother Bear, for us, and then he did the Tarzan Broadway musical. And I think that was probably one of my favorite memories was that
Mhm.
Broadway musical because I got to be part of all of the planning of that and got to go and watch the rehearsals before it went into the theater and just got to like actually through those times got to actually like talk with Phil on the phone. I remember one time I had this is just a funny memory and it's like one that always stands out, but I had we were working, I think this was on Tarzan, the movie, I think. And anyway, I had sent him in he lived in Switzerland and I sent him one of those gigantic plush that we used to do back in the day for Nestle that we would do these big
Mhm.
life-size things as retail giveaways. Anyway, I got one and sent to him in Switzerland and literally his assistant called me and goes, and I picked up, hey, talk to him. And then he goes, hold on a second, Phil wants to talk to you. And I literally about just passed out because it was just not expected. Anyway, he got on the phone and was just so nice and thanked me for that and just how much he enjoyed doing the project. So I don't know. It's just stuff like that that it's
Yeah.
that stuff like will live with you forever. And so there were just so many moments like that at a company like Disney and so many different kinds of projects like that. That was
That touch
pretty
you.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that for me, it was
How about
doing the
you? Yeah.
Disney Way One program. Like
Okay.
that was like, so that program, some of you Disney people on the chat know this, but you get nominated to be a part of this executive program, and for a whole week, you go to different parts of the Disney company, and on your last day, you actually go to the Disney park, and you get to be a Disney character in the park. So you get trained to be a character. You get to meet visitors in the park and sign autographs. And so that for me, not only like the whole experience, the whole week was super amazing to see the whole company, but you could tell your family you were going to go out there in the park. So my daughter got to see me as a Disney character at Disneyland, and we have pictures of her. So I was Happy, one of
Okay.
the dwarfs. So we have pictures of me and my 3-year-old daughter as I'm Happy in the park, and it was just seeing people how those characters make adults feel so
Yeah.
happy, and
Yeah.
they know you're not real, but boy, do they act like you are, and just so that to me was like just one of the life moments for me at Disney. But
And believe it
um
or not, I never did get to do Disney Way One, and I don't know why. I never did get
you
to
were
do
busy with
it.
Phil
And
Collins.
I guess. And there was an executive one called Disney Dimensions, and I always
Mm.
had my eyes set on I'm doing that one day, but I never did end up getting to do that. But plenty of other good experiences.
Oh yeah, I know there's tons of them. So to wrap up our Disney days, I guess for you, I wanted to ask you, what did you think your most valuable knowledge
Yeah.
that you took away from your time at Disney that you've used now throughout your career?
Yeah. I mean, my gosh, it's you and I talk about this a lot when we're together too. It's unbelievable what a network it creates for you in your career. And I was there 16 years but coming right out of college too, I didn't know anything. And so growing up in that environment though, where you're expected to be very polished, very buttoned up, very professional, um, and you're working with the biggest stars on the planet and you're working also with all the major movie directors, Broadway directors, producers, because they all want to know, like in our case, working on the music side, they all want to know what you're doing to support their movie or their Broadway show or their,
Mhm.
television show or whatever. So for me, I think it was number one, just I've the way I'm definitely a perfectionist, but I think a lot of that I learned from those Disney years because everything was just expected to be quality and
Mhm.
like very well thought out and professional. And the executives there really challenged you. Like the people that we were around, these were amazing, smart, talented people that it makes you better. So I think I kind of learned the work ethic, the always putting my best foot forward because any meeting you're going into, client pitch, whatever, you just should always be prepared. So even now it's like I'm a freak about just doing agendas and just like I way overthink every meeting I go into. I want to make sure if there's like a video I should have prepared or a presentation deck or whatever. But that really comes from Disney, I feel like, because everything was done so well and so thoroughly. And then I think the other big piece is just it's the collaboration and it's thinking out of the box on how 2 + 2 can equal 5 because so
Yeah.
often it's like I feel like a lot of people that you deal with in your career, they just want to push what they need on you versus really stepping back and thinking about, hey, you got to first figure out what's going to work for them and what works for us, and like let's come together and figure out how to make it be a collaborative process. So I think that's a big takeaway. And probably my biggest thing though is relationships, relationships, relationships.
Mhm.
Literally, just by looking at this chat today, these are people that some of these folks I've known 30 years, and these are relationships from that you're gonna know people for your entire life. And Kerri, as well as I do, our network is so broad that literally even now in the country music world, all the time this happens that I'll walk into a meeting or something will happen and it's like, whoa, I knew you from Disney, or
Mhm.
it's there's such a web out there. And so if you don't manage yourself and just create good relationships and learn to not always have to have your way with everything. Like you got to, just be a collaborative person and build really good, solid relationships. I mean, they'll serve you your entire career. And I can't even begin to express how many doors have opened in my life because of the people I've known and worked with at Disney. So, and I'm sure you're the same way.
Yeah. I met a lot of good people at Disney.
What was your
Um,
biggest learning or takeaway from those years?
so I think mine was my biggest the knowledge that I took away from Disney was the synergy, to your point. Um, ha, just it opened up my brain to think about how to work cross vertical, like enterprise, cross enterprise. Um, and that's really, since I left that job, that's the way that I think about everything. It's how I do my job now. It's like, how do you utilize all the levers? You don't pull them all at the same time, but how do you utilize all the levers to have your best outcome? And so that has been really like something that I absolutely know came from my Disney time. One of the things that I actually was expecting you to say, and maybe because I didn't phrase the question, um, but the two things that I think that that really you got really good at Disney was your artist development and your um it's really when you started doing television production too, right?
Yeah.
Like seeing you do some of those specials that you did,
Yeah.
like that was, I think that's where that came in your Disney time as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, that definitely was a turning point. I don't know why I didn't think to answer that that way, but thank you. Um, I mean, obviously, like artist development was a huge piece of that. And it wasn't even just artist development, it was franchise development. So it
Right,
was like,
right.
how do you start here and how do you maximize this artist or franchise for years to come and don't make just quick decisions that will burn them out? It's like you got to think the long game. So that was that piece. But then, yeah, because of that, I mentioned that Lizzie McGuire music video. That was our sort of first thing, we really kind of entered into that space. And I was the one involved in, I don't even remember now, but somehow found like an editor, producer, whatever to put it together. And then from there, because that was successful, that became a big part of our role, obviously at the music group was creating a lot of content and pushing that out, through the Disney Channel and other pipelines. And so I kind of ended up becoming our de facto music video producer. And then that kind of led into concert specials and things. And I just found I just had a real passion for that. I just really enjoyed that. There was something about finding a home for something to air and then getting the creative team together to kind of bring it to life and meeting with the artist to figure out what their vision was. So that's today, like still probably one of my biggest passions, like in my current job is the TV production and stuff. And then of course, the artist development side too. But yeah, that was a big major takeaway.
So, okay, so let's switch gears now. So I remember getting the call. I remember exactly where I was too. I was at NARM in Century City when I got the call. And I had already left Disney and I was now working at Sony Nashville for Joe Galante, who I think was on this, has done this program as well. And you said, what do you think about me moving to Nashville? And I said, what? I love that idea. Um, and so what was going on in your head? Because at this point you were considering a role at CMA.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell me.
I mean, I'm a true believer in the universe, first of all, that like stuff is supposed to happen, happens. But yeah, so I had after I had left Disney, I started a company that I ran for about 3 years, and it was very focused on artist management and artist development and that side of it. And I just at kind of just as I grew and was learning more about what I was interested in and kind of just was knowing where just where I wanted to put my career focus. And there were a lot of things like from Disney that I was kind of missing, like just having more infrastructure, more of a team environment, having more resources. So I was just kind of going through like a lot of exploration on what I ultimately wanted to do, big picture. And so just through that process, I actually got a career coach at that time, and I went through this whole career coaching process, which at the time felt like, am I crazy for doing this? But it actually was great because it forced me to get really granular about the things I like, the things I don't like, and what I want to do. And so it kind of led me ultimately to looking at, I knew I wanted to be in the music business. That was for sure. I wasn't going to do anything else. And then I just knew that I wanted to do something that was related to television production and still working with talent. And so ultimately, through that process, I had an opportunity at the Country Music Association in Nashville. And obviously, I knew you living there. And I knew, there were a few other friends that had moved to Nashville. And I think I'd been there once or twice on business when we had the Hannah Montana movie. So we went to Nashville for that. And there's maybe a couple other projects. So all that to say, I just was kind of at a place in life. I was just ready to take a big chance. And I think I was about to turn 40 and just was like, you know what? You live once. Well, I'll check it out. I'll see what it's about. But I just honestly didn't know much of anything about country music. So that was kind of a big risk, but that's ultimately kind of where my head was. And so I flew back to Nashville and for an interview. And actually at that time, the timing was kind of funny because it was November timeframe, and the CMA awards were about to happen. So they flew me back to do an interview, and then they wanted me to go to the CMA awards so I could just experience it. So it was kind of perfect. I got to go and then go to the award show, see what it was all about, and I was blown away by it. And then ironically, CMA awards are on ABC, and all the CMA shows are on ABC. So I already, of course, knew all the ABC people from Disney. So they were all there. So it kind of felt like old home week. So it just made me feel like, wow, this is really unique. Like I'm going to get to work with my Disney friends at ABC, but still work in production and music and everything, and start over in Nashville. So it just, the stars aligned, and I just took the chance. And I'm sure that's why I called you, Kerri. I was probably like, am I crazy to do this? And you're like, no, come on back. We'll have fun.
Yeah, and we did. We have had fun. Um, and so then your journey from CMA to the ACMs, you want to talk a little bit about that and that change?
Yeah. Yeah. So just, I mean, quickly, coming in, and too, because you came from the LA world into Nashville. So the difference in just the culture, the community. It's
Mhm.
very different than the LA, New York scene. And it's kind of jarring at first when you come in,
Mhm.
because first of all, the people are so much nicer. Sorry, LA and New York, if you're on, but it's just a different culture. And I was super intimidated at first because I didn't know a ton about country. I knew about the music industry and I knew some of the artists, but I just didn't know a ton about the inner workings of it. So I kind of came in like more humbly, like wanting to learn and not be like the LA person coming in and going, this is how you do it. And so that served me really well. So was it 6 years at the CMA, and my last role there was chief marketing officer, which was an amazing experience. I just loved the people there, the board. It was my crash course in the country music business, and I loved it. And ultimately, there was an opening at the ACM, um, which is our, I guess you'd say CMA, ACM are kind of friendly competitors, and ultimately somebody tapped me on the shoulder to if I was interested in the CEO role at ACM. And at the time, ACM was based in LA. And so I said, well, I'm not moving back to LA. And they said, well, you can commute back and forth and we'll figure it out, basically. So I interviewed and just got really excited about the opportunity, and ultimately like came in here at the end of 2019 and took the role. And that's how I got into my current role, which is now 6 years into this role.
Wow, I can't believe it's been that long.
I know.
So will you tell us a little bit? I know we've only got a little bit of time left, and I have another big topic I want to talk about. So will you tell us about the big show that you're working on?
Yeah, so I mean, again, the TV production side, which obviously I love that. And so the unique thing about coming over to the ACM is, as the CEO here, I also get to serve as executive producer on the ACM Award show. And so I honestly, I don't know how involved past CEOs were in the show or not, but I'm like, that's not just a title. I'm like going to be involved because I really enjoy this side of it. So ultimately, that's one of our big tentpole events each year is the ACM Awards. And I love it. I get to work with really great production teams, and very blessed to get to work with Raj Kapoor as our executive producer. And he does the Grammys and the Oscars as well, and just so many Dick Clark productions. And so I get to really be in the television space, which is really fun. So this year is our 60th anniversary, which is just, I mean, I've been thinking about that since 2019 when I came in, that the 60th is coming. I can't believe it's here. But we're 2 weeks out. It's 2 weeks from today. So shameless plug. I hope everybody on here remembers to watch. It's on Prime Video. But the exciting thing about it is that during, COVID happened, and that caused a lot of shifts in how we do award shows and where we were doing award shows, and I won't go into all of that, but ultimately it led us to needing to find a new home for the ACM Awards. So I had never really had to fully do that before, where it was like shopping a major show to all the networks and streamers. And so, I went through that process, and ultimately we made a deal at Amazon at Prime Video, which was very groundbreaking in 2022 because there wasn't live programming on streamers at that time. It was all just broadcast networks. So we were the first to have a live show on a streamer, and so that was pretty groundbreaking. And so now this year, we're our fourth year and going to be doing it in Texas, and just going to be tons of superstars and legends, and we're going to do just a big old celebration, and we're really, really excited about it. But if it doesn't kill me, but you can ask my husband who's on this, like he knows what I go through. But it's really rewarding because I get to use, the artist experience and the production experience for this job, and I love it.
Well, that is amazing. Can't wait to watch it. And question, I just want to give you some time because I know this is important to you. But if we can just spend a minute to talk about mental health and just
Oh yeah.
work-life balance. And I know that it's a high priority for you, and you did something life-changing this year. I don't know if you want to just kind of talk about it. We can close out with kind of this last bit.
Yep. This is why Tom wants good friends to interview you, because they ask questions that like put you on the spot.
Sorry.
I'm happy to answer it. It is a big thing. I mean, I've really, with the stress and the pressures and everything that we all experience, it's really it kind of moved me in a direction where I wanted to just do something healthy for myself. And ACM Lifting Lives, which is our nonprofit arm, is very focused on mental health for our music industry. And it's a big topic right now, obviously. So it's top of mind for me. And one of our partners is Onsite, which is a really great facility outside of Nashville that does a lot of programs and on-site, like the name says, programs. And so I decided I was going to give myself a gift. And at the top of the year, I decided to go there and do the Living Centered program. And it was almost a week program, and you stayed there on campus, and it was very transformational for me and very positive, and gave me some really important perspective that, going into this crazy time now of like award shows and all these things, it's really centered me and given me that ability to, know also when to ask for help, because I don't think any of us are good at asking for help when we need it. We want to just kind of handle it or control things, but we need help, and we need to lean on people. We need to know our limits and setting boundaries and things like that. So I learned a ton, and so I'm just a big advocate for mental health, and people, I think, there shouldn't be any stigmas around it. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Like, everybody needs to focus on their physical health and their mental health. If that's going to therapy, if it's whatever, friends, whatever it is,
Right.
it was life-changing for me.
Well, thanks for sharing that, and spending time with us.
Of course. Can I ask you, just to close too, on you? I wish we had an hour to ask you questions, Kerri, but just really quick though, I want to ask
Yeah.
for you, like, just your journey, because you moved to Nashville, went to Sony Music, head of sales. I mean, that was a huge transition. You've been an entrepreneur for years. Now you're at Lab Nashville and at Gab, which is an exciting new company. I'm just curious, like, what's your takeaways from working in Nashville and being in different industries and like entrepreneur versus being in a big company like Sony?
It's well, thank you for asking that. I think that to your point, I miss having structure a lot of times, and having teams and having resources. Running my own company is, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I love the flexibility. I enjoy being able to choose the clients that I want to work with. But also working with Gab, you know, they're a small company. They're still a startup, I would say, mid-sized startup. And I think I have the best of both worlds because at Gab, I actually run the music streaming service. So I'm still in the music industry in that space. In the lab, Nashville, I have clients that are in tech and food and music. Right now, I love living in Nashville. Like I really am. I love where I'm at and what I'm doing. And to your point about like mental health, like I'm able to balance. Like I know when I've got it, if I've got really demanding weeks, I know that I can schedule my time to have that time that I need to get, you know, have my downtime. And so for me right now, everything is good. And Nashville, other than today, it's pouring rain today.
Yeah.
You know, I just think the Nashville has so much to offer right now. I mean, our food scene is amazing. The companies that are coming here are, you know, just the tech and the enterprises that are coming. Nashville has a lot to offer right now, and I'm so glad that you joined me here because it's fun to be able to have nice dinners and chats with you like this. And thank you, Tom, for having us. There you are.
Been
You're
here a
back.
long time.
It's magic.
I cannot believe that hour just evaporated.
I know.
Like you guys were both worried. Could we fill an hour?
I know.
We could fill 3 days with the stories between you two. And Kerri, Damon's right. We'd love to have you back in the hot seat sometime if you would indulge us, because I know you've got a lot of other wisdom to share with this audience too.
Thank you, Tom. I'd love to come back.
Well, consider this your invite, and we will get it on the books for later this year, if not early next year. I'm booked into October now.
Amazing.
But
Can't
listen,
wait.
thank you so much for coming. Damon, I've been chasing you for what, 3 years to do this? And I'm so glad that we could finally do it and really celebrate the big 60th anniversary of the ACMs. Great on you. To the audience, I promised you'd leave smarter and more inspired than you arrived. I know we delivered on that front as well. So folks, thank you for your time today. Damon and Kerri, thank you for being here. And folks, we'll see you next time. Be nice to each other.
Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Kerri. Great interviewer.